You're watching BBC One in the North. Now, look north with Mike McCarthy and Clare Frisby.
Out in the cold, one of Hull's most powerful politicians is dropped by the Labour Party.
The Great Escape meets Rio, the cat no cat flap can contain.
And the way we were, Look North turns 30 today.
Good evening, welcome to Look North. A former Lord Mayor of Hull, who last week was cleared of allegations of expenses fraud, has been dropped by the Labour Party.
John Black has been told he won't be allowed to stand in this year's local council elections because he's not a suitable candidate. The move could spell the end of the political career of one of Hull's most powerful figures. Here's our East Yorkshire reporter, Paul Murphy.
It's just over a week since John Black announced his political comeback. Cleared by the Crown Prosecution Service of defrauding his expenses, he'd been planning to stand for re-election in the ward he'd represented for 22 years. At the height of his powers, John Black had a formidable influence within the city. He sat on 5 council committees. He was involved in 3 of the city's major regeneration schemes, and he played important roles in 2 other housing projects. The Labour Party says it's rejected him because he was not sensitive enough to a possible conflict of interest relating to the concentration of power and political responsibility in his hands. But the leader of Hull City Council has defended the way power is allocated in the city.
That is the way we've run our council. People have been appointed by position. And we thought that was the appropriate thing to do, linking council responsibility with those outside the council to provide that direct liaison.
For others, though, the recent controversies in Hull are something the city could well do without.
It doesn't look very good for investors coming in. We're getting a lot of press coverage, but it's not the right reasons for getting the press coverage. You know, we are getting tarred with the same brush as Doncaster and other places, and it isn't good for Hull as a whole.
John Black did not wish to be interviewed about the decision, but told me he was dismayed by it. He added that he would remain committed to politics, the Labour Party and the city. Paul Murphy, Look North, Hull.
Also, a Doncaster councillor has been arrested today by detectives involved in Operation Danem, the investigation into the local council. Our local government reporter, Kirsty Mitchell, joins us now from the Look North newsroom. Kirsty, what more can you tell us about what's been happening today?
Well, the councillor in question is Michael Collins. He's a Labour councillor and he represents the addict ward in the town. He apparently turned up voluntarily at the town's central police station this morning, accompanied by his solicitor. And he's been questioned all day by detectives involved with the Operation Danem investigation. And indeed, I understand he's still being questioned as we speak.
Generally, what stage is the police investigation now at?
We're about a year down the line. Operation Danem was set up about a year ago. It's the name that was given to the special team set up to look into Doncaster Council. There's about 18 detectives who've been beavering away for the last year or so in premises on the outskirts of Doncaster, wading through piles of council paperwork. Just before Christmas, they actually arrested 3 people. They arrested a senior council officer and also 2 directors of a local company. So we've already had 3 arrests, and today is the 4th arrest in the Operation Danem history to date.
Thank you, Kirsty.
Rail passengers throughout the region are being promised faster trains and a more reliable network. Railtrack has announced plans for a big overhaul of tracks, signals and stations. But news of the investment has not silenced all the company's critics, who say it's still too little. Alan Whitehouse has this report.
It amounts to the biggest makeover the rail system's ever seen. Railtrack say they're going to put right years of neglect, replacing hundreds of miles of track and obsolete signals. More cash will go on station improvements.
This is a true railway renaissance, and it means improved journey times, it means better track layout, improved signalling, better journeys, the whole affair. And it truly is the greatest thing since the Victorian pioneers.
Among the improvements passengers will see are cuts to the York to London trip to 1 hour 37 minutes. Sheffield to London trains will take less than 2 hours, while cross-Pennine trains between Leeds and Manchester will take only 45 minutes to make the journey. Railtrack aren't denying that some of these plans amount to jam tomorrow. Some of the schemes will happen quickly, within 3 or 4 years. But for others, it'll be up to 10 years before the plans come to fruition and passengers see the full benefits. Railtrack's been under heavy criticism for not spending enough and for neglecting basic safety issues. Today's plans haven't silenced all their critics.
When you look at the fine detail, what you see is they're not spending enough to keep the track up to scratch. In fact, at the rate they're talking about, each piece of track will be renewed once every 128 years. And that's obviously not good enough.
But Railtrack says it's now on track to spend far more than the minimum laid down by the rail regulator. Alan Whitehouse, Look North, Leeds.
A private school in North Yorkshire has become the first in the country to advertise itself on television. Queen Ethelburga's College between York and Harrogate says the response to the advert has been overwhelming, and parents from all over the country have contacted them. This report from our education correspondent, Liz Meach.
Which girls' boarding school in the United Kingdom awards scholarships and bursaries worth over £400,000 every year?
The advert, based on a series of questions, cost £15,000. But within minutes of it going out on Channel 4, inquiries from parents had begun.
Phone lines were jammed for a considerable time after the end of the advert, and we spent the time since the advert went out sending out prospectuses.
But why should a private school have to resort to advertising on television? The independent sector and boarding schools in particular have been having a hard time over the past few years. But the principal denies this is a desperate move.
Over the whole independent sector, boarding numbers are dropping, it's true, and we are predominantly a boarding school with 85% boarding. But in this particular case, we have a 206% increase in our boarding numbers in the last 5 years, and that doesn't sound like desperation to me.
Rather, Queen Ethelburga sees itself as an innovative school. They were the first to advertise on radio, and TV seems the obvious next step.
I think the more people know about it, the better, and there's no better way than television.
Really, I think it's an emphasis on how successful the school has been over the last 7 years. So I think it's a very positive move.
There's fierce competition in the independent sector in this part of North Yorkshire. Within a 20-mile radius of Queen Ethelburga's, there are 12 private schools with first-class reputations, all vying for pupils. So each one has to offer something different and get their message across. Queen Ethelburgers believe they're one step ahead, and others will follow them onto the small screen. Liz Meach, Look North, North Yorkshire.
Yorkshire Water says that customers throughout the region have been listening to the Save Water message. The company has just released figures that show consumption in the region is falling, but they are worried that the long-term trend is still up. In today's special report for the BBC's Water Week, Richard Sadler looks at how Yorkshire Water is promoting conservation.
Local schoolchildren are shown around Yorkshire Water's Headingley treatment works as part of a programme to educate young people on the importance of being careful with water. Many of them already seem to be getting the message.
When taking a bath, to fill up the bath, and you can save it by taking a shower instead.
Use a cup and I'm brushing my teeth and I don't fill the bath up too much.
And I clean my football boots. I only use one bucket full of half a bucket full of water.
Yorkshire Water has become the first regional water company in the country to appoint a full-time water conservation officer, and she's already helped the National Trust cut water bills at Fountains Abbey near Ripon. With fitting of a few simple devices like timing mechanisms in the public toilets and flow-restricting tap washers, water use has been halved.
The important part really is to not fundamentally ask people to change their lives or their lifestyles. You can be clever about how you use water by installing water-saving devices in the home or in business, and they're small, simple, cheap objects that actually will help to save water.
New houses are now fitted with 2 toilets as standard, and although water consumption has tailed off in the last few years, the underlying trend is for ever greater water use. It's here in the home where most of the water collected from reservoirs and rivers ends up, and it's here where the problem lies. The average family now uses more than 150 litres of water a day. That's almost double what they would have been using 30 years ago. On average, taking a bath uses 100 litres of water. Taking a shower uses 40 litres. Flushing the toilets takes up 12 litres of water, while using the washing machine or washing the car uses 100 litres of water. Yorkshire Water are now hoping that their customers of the future will learn to save water as a matter of course. Richard Sadler, Look North.
conserving water in Yorkshire. You're watching Look North.
Still ahead on tonight's programme.
Born to be free, the moggy that cracks the code on any cat flap.
And remember this, we say happy 30th birthday to Look North.
Now, when it comes to horror movies, Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing are the undisputed masters. The special effects used by Hammer Horror Films to create vampires and zombies have become legendary.
They have indeed, but beware though, the effects used on Frankenstein and Dracula have found a new home in Bradford. We sent Phil Connell along to find out more.
Anyone who remembers the early Hammer Horror Films will already know that the makeup department played one of the most important parts. Prior to filming, actors like Christopher Lee could spend 4 or 5 hours in makeup, creating a certain look that was guaranteed to scare thousands of people. 22 years since the last Hammer horror film was made, the special effects which left cinema-goers screaming have now been bought by the Bradford Film Museum. The collection, which is worth around £100,000, includes 1 or 2 items which some people perhaps would sooner forget.
These are teeth that he actually created for one shot for Christopher Lee in Dracula, where the blood would go into that reservoir, be squeezed by Christopher Lee's tongue, and drip off the end of the fang. So it was quite an innovative invention. This is original blood that is still actually in reasonably good condition, that was used in these horror films, and you can see it's still fairly realistic and still actually works.
Notebooks by Roy Ashton, the makeup artist responsible, will also form part of the exhibition, including his pictures of the actress Ursula Andress, who he dramatically aged 2,000 years for the film She.
Their kind of innovative use of prosthetics and almost kind of makeup transformation was enormously pioneering and groundbreaking. In fact, it set the tone for many of the later Hollywood horror genre blockbusters.
The horror collection is due to open next year, rekindling those terrifying memories which many thought were dead and buried. Phil Connell, Look North, Bradford.
And no, I'm not wearing the makeup. I always look like this, OK? Well, from Hammer Horror to consumer catastrophes. And this week's Checkout looks at the cat who's got manufacturers in a flap. Claire.
Thanks, Mike. They said that their cat flaps could not be beaten, that they would let your pet in but stop them from going out on the prowl when you wanted them to stay indoors. That is, until they met Rio. Sean Stoll takes up the story.
Rio the cat likes his freedom. He's a bit of a Jack the lad, but he's also a bit too clever for his own good. He learned how to crack the cat flap, escaped and promptly got run over, dragging himself home by his front paws after being missing for 4 days. His owner, Sarah Jubb, is worried Rio could go under the wheels again.
Rio wants to go out in an evening, the cat flap's open, and he can come in freely either way. Once the cat flap's locked, it's stopping him from going out. However, Rio being Rio, he can open it this way.
So Checkout road tested a new cat-made cat flap and a stay-well flap to see how Rio reacts. Carpenter Dominic Kell's going to fit them for us. Hello, Dom.
Hello.
So while Rio tests a brand new cat-made cat flap, let's find out more about Sarah's problems with this particular model.
It basically says it's the ultimate cat flap, so your cat cannot get out. If you want your cat staying on at night time, then it will stay in. And it's a 4-way system, so it's cat-proof. However, Rio suits the system. So.
Yes, in the time it took Sarah to tell us that, Rio rumbled the new cat-made flap. Its manufacturer's pet mate said,
"We have to admit that whilst every eventuality is taken into account when designing our cat flaps, there will always be that 1 in a million cat like Rio to test our ingenuity."
Next up for testing was the Staywell 2.
So it looks like Rio's a dab hand at braking and exiting. It's no surprise that his mother and father are called Bonnie and Clyde. So let's now see if this new Staywell cat flap can finally keep our feline Houdini where he belongs.
Go for it, laddie. And in the meantime, let's find out more about life with a clever cat.
The problem is, it's not just Rio getting out. He opens the cat flap, and the other cat, Chloe, and our little Jack Russell Miller, they all go out. So he just holds it, and they're all off all night. It's a nightmare.
Amazingly, within 3 minutes our Rio had it cracked. So we went and bought the more expensive Staywell 17. But would that keep our jailbreaker inside?
Basically, he's not a happy cat. I mean, he's tried every which way to get out of windows, doors, mowing at anybody that passes to let him out. Because basically he's contained, and Rio is a roamer. He likes to get out and meet all those girls.
So one Staywell flap worked, the other didn't. A company spokesman said he was intrigued by Rio's skills, which had overcome the company's very comprehensive product testing. So finally he's hemmed in. But hey up, what's that kitchen window?
And here he is himself, the wonder cat, Rio, and his owner, Sarah Jubb. Sarah, he's managing to sit still at the moment, but he is a bit of a super cat, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He's up to all sorts.
Yeah, he gets into the fridge, into cupboards, and what happened on his midnight feast the other day?
He just opens the fridge and helps himself to the chicken or tuna or whatever's in there.
Yeah.
He's obviously a really bright cat, Sarah, but he's not managed to get his way round the cat flap. Oh, there he goes. He's not managed to get round the cat flap that you've got now, has he?
No, not for the time being. I do believe he will crack this one as well, though. He's arrived it off the door nearly, trying to get out, and he's mowling at it, so he's sussing it out.
I bet he's pretty mad, isn't he, that you won't let him out and he can't work it out quite yet.
He's furious. He's mowling at anybody who passes a window trying to get out.
And Petmate, I gather, are offering him a job.
Yes, they are.
To test out all their new cat flaps.
Yeah, so he can earn his own keep now.
So he's a bright cat, and he's got a very bright future ahead of him by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where he's gone.
He's off, actually. I think he's gone up to see the boss to get a job. I don't know.
Gone for a look around the studio. Anyway, Sarah, thanks very much indeed for bringing Rio in. And
Yes,
Rio, wherever you are, best of luck, mate. Anyway, from cats now to rhinos. Down the years, the Leeds Rhinos Rugby League Club have taken their fair share of stick from the sports writers and commentators.
Well, today the players had a chance to get their own back. As part of a warm-up to the new season, Leeds took on a media team at Headingley, and Damien was among them.
It was hardly the toughest assignment Leeds Rhinos have faced. In fact, with the average age of our team around 50, we were bolstered by 1 or 2 ringers, while some of the press joined the Leeds team.
No one talks to the press beforehand. No one talks to the press afterwards. That is a wall.
This was a chance for the Leeds players to get their own back for years of vitriolic news coverage. They've often been described as underachievers. But for one veteran of the commentary box, it was just all too much.
I've not got the legs, I'll put it that way, David, and if there's anywhere in Leeds where I can get a new pair of legs and possibly a new hat, then let me know.
A lot of these Leeds boys were up for this, a chance to get their own back on some of the unpleasant comments the commentators and journalists have said about them.
Well, it was. Myself and Barry McDermott had quite a scrap. I was only pleased just to see they didn't get sent off this time.
But the rough stuff is best left to others. This prima donna presenter was doing his best to keep out of the way of the big lads. So who'd caught the coach's eye?
Ray French gives away too many penalties.
Gives away a bit of age as well, doesn't he?
Oh, he does. But he's still got a few skills. But a couple of young blokes there show a little bit of potential.
It's all about preparing for the new season. Are you in shape for the new season?
I think we are. You know, we've probably come up with a couple of injuries last week that we didn't want, but everyone's going to have those.
Well, there you go. We won 1, we lost 1. The Leeds Rhinos certainly look in good shape for the forthcoming season. Damien Johnson, look north, cream crackhead.
And a little bit more from our action man in just a moment, albeit a little bit younger and a little bit fitter, because it was 30 years ago today that Look North first hit your TV screen.
Doesn't seem that long ago, does it? Since that time, the technology has changed, the sofa has gone, and almost all the faces are different. We've put together some of our favourite memories from the past 30 years, and I wonder how many of these faces you can remember.
This is BBC North.
BBC North from Leeds.
One, I'm Phil. Thank you, Harry.
The
way we were Monday, March the 25th, 1968. Quite a few changes since then, of course, and hopefully a few improvements along the way. Can you imagine presenters smoking on air nowadays?
Sports. We'll take time out to roam the Cleveland Way.
Happy birthday, Look North. Now, when I joined the programme, a guy called Khalid Aziz was presenting, and when I left, Harry Gratian took over. But in between, there was a young whippersnapper called McCarthy came along. Lord knows what happened to him.
He looked relaxed as the 2 charges of murder were read out. He's also charged with stealing more than £80,000 from his clients.
Look North did all the big news stories, so we had the Ripper, we had the miners' strike, we had the steel strike, and they were always pretty hairy, pretty exciting. But it was the daft stories that I remember, the animal stories.
And as she points out, if there's no guarantee...
Tonight, a Yorkshire hunt's opening meet is...
Well done, Thurwell. Douglas is called because the miners strike begins tonight. I'm awfully sorry about that little hiccup at the top of the programme. Never mind. Happy birthday, Look North. You know, the legacy of this programme was that I nearly got divorced the night that my husband saw me on the sofa in the studio with Rick Mail with my legs in the air. Get out of that one.
I want to do the one thing that every man in Yorkshire wants to do. Excuse me. Give us a kiss, Jude. Snog me, snog me.
Right word. One of the most difficult things is carrying on when all around you is falling down. I remember the occasion when I was interviewing Dennis Skinner, of all people, and the floor manager realised that my mic had gone, so he started to crawl towards me on the floor.
South today, a far cry, isn't it, from Look North, but it is warmer down here, and of course I am also on missionary work. But I do remember the good old days. Remember that nice Judith Stamper? I used to call her the Brigadier because she was a bit bossy. She used to tell me what kind of ties to wear and also when to have my hair cut. But I'm delighted to say that down here, I'm very much in control.
Are you wearing that tonight? The grey doesn't suit you, and I don't like the tie. And if you finish in the studio, can you clear off?
I think that sorted her out. But seriously, happy birthday to Look North, and I know that I leave you in very safe hands up there. Those 2 amiable presenters, Mike and Claire. Seriously, both of you, happy birthday, and I wish I was with you.
Well, the picture is changing now, you're part of a crowd. They're laughing and something, the music's loud. A girl comes towards you, wants you to know. You reach out your hand, but you're off. Who's going off? I'm passengers. Please wait. I know you're in there, you're just out of sight. Oh, time passengers. Buy me a ticket on the last train home tonight.
That's it for Look North for tonight. Hope you've enjoyed this rather special edition. So if you don't mind, it's good night from me and Judith. Pass the stuff, please. Thank you. You should be in here. Good night.
I remember it well. She always was a bit of a...
What do you think, Mike? Do you think moustaches will come back, do you think?
You know, why didn't somebody tell me at the time how I looked?
Look at this. Play them out. Go on.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Good. Happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday. And if you've been watching for the past 30 years or for the past 30 minutes even, thank you very much indeed.
Time for the weather.
It is. Paul, what's in store for us? You can have some of this in a minute.
I think it's set a new fashion again with that moustache. Was it real?
No, this is the real thing. This actually is a genuine McCarthy moustache.
Right, well, you'll both remember the weather 30 years ago. This is what it looked like, fine and bright, and much better than today, actually, some sunshine as well down in the south of the region. But we have had a lot of rain around, especially in the south of the region. You look at this morning's radar picture, quite a bit of rain down there. North Yorkshire got away quite lightly, and it all cleared away. But behind me, the rain is massing once again in Ireland, so it looks like a wet 24 hours to come. That rain is actually associated with a number of weather fronts. They will come across the region during the course of tomorrow, so all of us will see further rain and drizzle. But it's from the southwest, so it looks like becoming increasingly mild. Let's have a look at a few details then. On to tonight then, quite a bit of rain around coming into the west around about midnight. Still, I think, dry towards the east, but that rain will sweep across all parts. Those winds will freshen, and we'll get a lot of low cloud. Watch out for that if you're travelling across the Pennines. Lowest temperatures then, very mild, 8 Celsius or 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, another write-off tomorrow. We'll have a lot of rain around first thing, particularly heavy, I think, in Pennine areas. But towards the end of the morning, that rain will begin to ease off. That mist and low cloud will clear away from the hills,
and it does look like something of an improvement coming into the north and west, perhaps brighter skies coming down towards Leeds and Sheffield, but I think down in Lincolnshire and North Nottinghamshire it's likely to stay fairly cloudy with further bits and pieces of rain and drizzle. A breezy day, a moderate to fresh southwesterly wind to come. Top temperatures very mild, 13, perhaps 14 Celsius, and that's 57 Fahrenheit. And into the outlook, well, wet on Friday, but it does look as though as the weekend comes on, we'll get some sunshine and it will become very warm, 17 the high. And that's it, it's party time.
It is, thanks very much indeed,
and
Paul.
And here's the first slice of the Look North birthday cake.
Come in, everybody.
Oh, Mike.
We're being joined by some of the faces that you may recognise from Look North and some of the people from behind the scenes. Come in, everybody, have some
Thank
cake.
you very much indeed for watching us over the last 30 years. And from all of us here, a very happy birthday and good night.
Good night.
Here you go, Mike. Oh, come on.
And if you were wondering what happened to any of the reporters or presenters from Look North from the past 30 years, call our newsline.
The number to ring is 0645 456 700, or you can email your birthday greetings.